Hi there, I'm Mark and welcome to my channel, Book Ramble. If it's the first time that you are here, so pleased to meet you. And if you are returning, especially if you are a subscriber, thank you so much. It really does make a difference to have that support, so thank you very much. I was away on vacation, holiday, down in the South Island. In fact, there's already a video up about my ramble through Queenstown. And in fact, that's a direction I'm going to take more and more. Almost breaking the channel in two. So there'll be books, rambling on about those, and then rambling physically through places I visit, which I suppose for a while is going to be mainly New Zealand. Just to show you the place, and I may not always be talking about books, however. But anyway, that's the direction where I think I'm naturally going to. But also, when I came back, Heather Reads had tagged me to do with bring back browsing tag. So thank you, Heather. And I did say I'll do a video, and here it is. So hopefully I'll do you justice. There's 5 questions to answer. And because of the power of screen capture, I put them on my desktop so I don't lose them. And the first one is Magic of Discovery. Share a book you found while browsing that you may not have discovered otherwise. Well, I have to say, pretty much every book that I've mentioned so far on this channel, if I've not read them before. So, for instance, these, I wouldn't have discovered them if they just happened to have been there. And in fact, I'm sure I put out to the universe, I'd love to find the first 10 books of the Penguin collection, and there they were. There were 2 of them. This one I got cheap because there's no top. It had obviously disappeared over time. But from that, this book, Ariel, which I'm coming to the end. There's about 5 pages for me to go on that one. So that's one example. And I've dropped all the books now. Well, I got them back in order because they got the numbers on the bottom. That helps. But there's a couple of books here that I would not have gone out and thought, that's a book I've got to get. And just because I happen to be browsing, in this case, if I remember, this is in a shop called Book Barn in Christchurch. The film, excellent film. Didn't know actually it's from a play by Bennett. So that's something. I'm getting more and more into plays over the last 5 or so years. Because when I was younger and introduced to, say, Shakespeare, I could follow it if it was on stage or if it was talked about, taught. But to read the plays on my own, I found too difficult. I'm okay now. Either something happened over the last 20 years that I've read more widely and able... I think what it is because I fell in love with books from that era. So the language didn't seem to be, what's all this bodkin and all that? Anyway, my point being is I've come to like reading plays. So that's one of them. Another one that I came across, I've already shown, is this. It's Broon's Cookbook. Beautifully done. So it's from a set of comics that goes out, or used to go out, in a Scottish newspaper. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to film myself making one of the recipes. Actually, I'm going to use my grandson to help me. He wants to get involved. A little book rambler. So that's an example of 2 books that I found just by browsing. And it is aptly named, Heather. Magic of Discovery. Although I must say that I think it was created by Roving Reader. So it's aptly named. The Magic of Discovery. Stuff out there that you would never have considered. But that's the first question. Question 2, expanding world. Share a book that has made you view things from a different perspective or exposed you to new ideas. I'm looking at the books around me. I mean, pretty much any book in the past, up until only yesterday, that the beauty of books is that it should open you up to new ideas from the author and where it is set and so on and so forth. The one I could give an example is, I've just finished this one. It's The Merchant of Venice, Shakespeare. Play again, you see. I've not read this for many, many years. In fact, I forgot half of it. But what struck me is the modern debate about whether this should be put on or not because of anti-Semitism. And it is in there. But also there is the opposite of that, Caucasian. In other words, Shylock he comes across actually as a character who should have sympathy, because he says that Antonio, one of the Christians, hates him because he's just a Jew. So it's from both sides. Of course, you need to read it to understand that. So that's made me look at The Merchant of Venice again in different eyes, just because I've read it recently. However, the one book that I would like to show regarding this, it really opened up my view from the very first time I read it, is Plato's Republic. Not for everyone, and it can be hard going. Yeah, it could be. I studied it at university when I was in my 30s, because I went quite late to uni. And I remember having conversations with the Doctor of Philosophy who was taking us through seminars. And he would bring out the cave analogy and the divided line. But it's all the other bits that's with it. And at the same time, I remember reading his later work, The Laws, and chalk and cheese. But this one had a profound effect from as soon as I read it. And I began to read it in the 1980s. Because I had come across in the Navy a sort of injustice that was not involving me. But I was affected because I knew somebody on a ship that suffered injustice. And it was based on their position on the ship, where they had not done something as bad as somebody much higher in the ship, but because they were an officer at the time, nothing was done. And that kind of injustice led me to want to further understand how these things happen. So I was drawn to philosophy. So this definitely exposed me to new ideas. And I'm going to talk about this in an episode shortly. So a good question. Question 3. Open to change. Share a book that has changed who you are as a person or altered your day-to-day habits. I've had a conversation with my wife recently. And in fact, on the ramble to Queenstown, I bring up the fact of, I think it's in my set of books here, and I'm looking, I can't see it. It's A Room of One's Own. Yeah, right at the bottom, so I won't lift it up, there's so many books on top. Virginia Woolf. No, I've mentioned it. I've got to show it. Yeah, that's the book's fallen over. A Room of One's Own. There's a piece in here that I actually recorded and then didn't put it up because I was too scared. It's about women in literature. And Virginia Woolf talks about a lot of characters who were made up. So Becky Sharp, that's Vanity Fair, isn't it? Anna Karenina and the Duchess of Malfi, Lady Macbeth, they're all from literature. But then there's Cleopatra, Antigone, which is not in the book I'm going to talk about, but I've just got the series of books from where that is. That these are women that are very strong in literature. They're very forceful. Antigone confronts the leader of Thebes, wanting to bring her dead brother who's out in the field in for a proper burial, and he's resistant to it. So she stands up to that tyranny. But that wouldn't have happened in real life. So what has happened with this book, and let me just check that I've got the tag correct. that's changed who you are as a person and altered your day habits. It's made me confront, as a man, the fact that there's a lot of books missing because they happen to have been written by women or were not permitted to have been written. We've got ancient books like Sappho and so on. And it's confronting me now as to, well, how do I approach literature moving forward? Should I have a more open mind? Am I able to, as a man, to have the same opinions as my wife will have, and Virginia Woolf in the past, and so on? So it's made me confront literature, and it's affecting the way that I now approach, as I say, what I'm reading and how the women are being depicted. But can I fully do that? I'm assuming I'm permitted to speak about it, but I fear that I'm going to stumble over my feet and get things slightly out of context. But anyway, I am rambling now. That's that one. And this is the actual book I'd like to point or to raise. I read this sometime in the late 80s, forgot about it, found it recently. Again, I'd forgotten nearly everything. I vaguely remember it was a woman in prison in Egypt. She is about to face the ultimate sentence, and she's interviewed over a night by the author, Nawal El-Sardawi, who I believe actually did interview a woman. Talks about what led her to become a murderer of men. And it's really about how a woman is mistreated by men and the society in which she has to thread through. It's like Egypt in the 1950s and 60s and 70s. Very powerful stuff. But it's definitely made me, although I didn't know it at the time, almost 40 years now thinking things through, and then having to refocus because I'm doing this content for YouTube, this channel. So combined, I'd like to cite these two. Again, very good question. And I definitely will do a video on this one. Annoyingly, when I click on the desktop image, it doesn't actually come to the center. It always goes off to one side. First world problem for you. Number 4, browse a bookstore, library, or a friend's shelves and talk about a book you found. The one I found, and again you can tell because this here means I've been taking notes as well as butchering it with my highlighting. This is a real surprise. I went to a shop. It may have been in Lake Tekapo. Petronella's, I think the bookstore is called. And this was there. Beautiful little book. So you probably know of this collection. They're all around the world. I had not come across this before. And what surprises me is that there's a selection of writers in which Voltaire is mentioned. And who else is in here? Florence McLandborough, Fritz James O'Brien, and H.G. Wells. And that's the one that I'm going to be talking about in a future episode. But this is just a wonderful find because I would never have, I didn't even know it existed. So the power of browsing is that you get to see or come across books you're not aware of. And this is one of them. And although it's short stories, it's much shorter than novellas, the first one, called The Star, I can't stop thinking about it. It's brilliant. H.G. Wells. And it's especially how I won't give it away because I'm going to do a video on it, but there's a bright light in the sky, and we find out what it is and the terrible calamity it brings on people. But it's these little deftly made, vignettes that are probably smaller than a paragraph, where H.G. Wells casts a light on people around the world and how they would react to what we know is going to be an impending doom of the planet. And a lot of it is, although it was written so long ago, possibly relevant today. People just go on having their lives. Lovers love. People are indifferent. Some panic. But generally, it's just as you would expect people to react when faced with something that's about to happen, but not quite sure what's going to happen. So that's what's wonderful about this little book. I found it by chance. It resonated. I love the front cover image. It's almost like diesel punk. Bought it, pleasantly surprised with the stories. And there has been a period recently in my life where I've been gravitating towards novellas and short stories because they're just so easy to navigate, but it's often very powerful in what they're talking about. That's why they've been published. So they are my answers to the 4 questions, and I'm now going to tag, because that's part of the deal, others to have a go answering the questions to the Bring Back Browsing tag. So thank you, Heather. It's great to answer, and hopefully I've done justice and you're proud by tagging me. And thank you, and you are correct. It's not that I've been waiting to be tagged, but you are in fact one of the first ones to tag me. So thank you very much. Perhaps that's going to open a dam now. I warn you, I can talk. Anyway, ta-ta for now.